This is part two of the Nipendo sim. We're going to talk about reviewing the responses, approving them, and then show how we can maintain the rules. So first off, with reviewing, you're going to get an email as a buyer about a response from a supplier that you've asked to onboard. And you go to the portal screens and focus in on the different tabs that you could look at, the different review steps that need to happen. Perhaps you're just going to be looking at the basic information that's being provided, and you're going to let further subsequent reviewers look at financials or specific documents and approve those, and so on and so forth. So go through the review across all the different tabs, and at some point in time, you can focus in on the approval side. You can see that there's an approval workflow. First step is yours as the user. So you'd go and if you've done all your reviews as necessary, you can open up the approve reject request screen, decide what to do. If you decide to reject, you're going to put some reasoning here, obviously, so that there's an audit trail, and you can track that as you go through. But in this case, maybe we'll approve it and go ahead and push it on to the next stage. You can see after we've approved it that the workflow reflects that approval on the first step, and it's added a second step, and you know whose plate it's on. Let's flip over to that person. Same sort of thing. They would go through their review as necessary after being brought there by an email and decide whether they're going to approve or reject and move it on to the next one. So you can see more steps are being added here. A third approver who goes ahead and approves. A fourth approver who needs to take a look at things, perhaps is looking at the documents themselves and approving those specific documents. It really depends on the workflow that you've got in there. And here we are on the last step. You do have the ability to assign your approval to someone else, so you could click that, but let's go ahead and approve this last one and see what happens, because the workflow here could be an automatic integration to the back-end ERP system where this supplier will be set up. And the idea here is that once you've done that processing, the ERP is contacted, the new information is downloaded to the ERP, and the ERP comes back with its own number so that it reflects that. And you could see that going back to the basic screen, for example. If we've refreshed everything, we could see everything that's gone on, and we can also see the validations and rules. So let's flip now over into maintenance of the rules. So for this, we have an area that's more of an administrative area for the supplier management administrators, and you could create different profiles that capture different suppliers, suppliers that are coming from a specific country, suppliers that are of a particular type. If you've defined warehousing suppliers or logistics suppliers as different types. In fact, let's go into a profile, and you can see where you can settle on a particular country or countries that fall into this profile, or types of suppliers that fall into this profile. And once you've identified who's going to fall under this profile, you can adjust the different compliance setups here. What do you want them to do with the company general information or the financial information? Just check the boxes that you want to have as mandatory or as steps in their process. You can say what contacts you'd like. You're going to have an administrator with the initial contact, but let's add also an accounts receivable person that is mandatory that they set up for onboarding so that you know who to go to for that. On the documents, you can set up different types of documents depending on what you need from the supplier. You can make them mandatory or conditional. You can put requirements around the dates of those documents, how recent they are, and so on. Finally, you can look at the statements. Statements are like an NDA, for example, or some other statements that you need to have a signature on from the supplier to make it official. That can be another rule that you put in there. So that's it. The buyer side of things, you can review, approve, and then maintain rules.